Hello, everyone. I'm Bethany Godso, Associate Vice President for Career and Leadership Development at NYU, and I'm very happy to welcome you to my NYU Story, where we bring you candid conversations between recent alumni and current students. This program has been organized by the Wasserman Center for Career Development, the Center for Student Life, the Leadership Initiative, and Alumni Relations. And now I want to thank our speakers for this evening, and I'm very excited to introduce them to you. We have Imogene Fordyce, who graduated as a member of NYU's class of 2020 with a degree in international relations and a minor in French from the College of Arts and Science. During her time at NYU, Imogene served as an RA and an admissions ambassador, interned through the city, and traveled the world while studying away at NYU Paris. Originally from the UK, she has remained in New York City post-graduation and currently works for UNFPA, the United Nations Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency. This evening, interviewing Imogene will be Eric Carrera. He is a rising junior in the Tisch School of the Arts, majoring in collaborative arts. Raised in Brooklyn, he's an educator and interdisciplinary artist focused on telling the stories of working class and immigrant communities he belongs to. Aside from that, he's currently serving as one of the chairs for NYU Welcome and is working to build meaningful events for all incoming and continuing students. So in advance, I want to say thank you, Imogene and Eric, and I will turn it over to you now.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all for coming. Hi, Imogene. I'm so excited to get this interview started. As you can see,
I'm ready.
I'm excited. I'm hyped. Let's get it. Let's get started. So to everyone who's here, I'll be asking Imogene a few quick questions, and then we'll build from there about her experience, what she did at her time here, and then slowly, talk a little bit. We're going to get to know Imogene a little bit better after this. And so my first question for you is, just in general, how did you select NYU?
Yeah, so it was an interesting experience. If you can't tell from my accent, which I hope you can because I'm trying to preserve it. I'm from the UK originally. I went to school there. My whole family is from there. So it was a leap in the dark to decide to apply to college in the US. And I knew I wanted to be in a city, and I knew I wanted somewhere that had lots of opportunities, which most cities do. So I applied on the West Coast. I applied on the East Coast. I was able to visit every school except NYU, and I even uttered the words. I was like, I just don't think I want to go to school in New York City. It's too much. And then I took a gap year and I left my family. I went and interned in South Africa. I was like, I'm going to go and have another adventure, take up that opportunity. And when my decisions came back, there was just this part of me that was like, I think it's got to be NYU. I think it's got to be New York. I think it's got to be the city with I was really interested in the UN at the time, something that has remained in my 4 years. And I was like, I want to work there. I want to intern there. I want to experience being in the city where this huge global organization and global community exists. And so my gut feeling kind of pushed me to go for it. And I think also it was slightly influenced by the fact I opened my NYU admissions email in a cafe in South Africa. And at the time I opened it, Empire State of Mind was playing coincidentally. And I was like, okay, this means it. I have to go. So I called my parents up and I was like, I'm going. And they said, to the only school you haven't visited? And I said, yes. And then we rocked up in August in Washington Square. And it was the first time I'd seen the arch or anything to do with NYU. And it felt like home ever since, not without its challenges, but it was really a gut feeling based on kind of getting the sense that it was going to be the school that could offer me the most. And I think I can say confidently now that it did. So yeah, well done to my gut feeling for getting it right.
That's an amazing story. Just like the Empire State of Mind playing. My story was a lot less graceful. I remember how I opened my admissions in a Whole Foods in downtown Brooklyn, and I jumped around, which is exciting too.
Still a great place to open it.
Anyways, so I feel like we got like a nice like sense as to who you are as a person, like, and I feel like we can also like tell that you're like very like motivated and also like very involved in stuff. And so, as many of you know, NYU students are exposed to a ton of leadership opportunities and programs ranging from clubs, mentorship programs, and for example, like I know you were an RA, admissions ambassador, and I currently right now am one of the welcome chairs in NYU Welcome. And so my question for you is that how did you apply to these programs and like what encouraged you to start joining?
Yeah, so I will say that coming from the UK, I had no idea what college in America looked like other than what I had seen in movies. And most of the time, that's not what NYU is like. It's not this huge state school. So I was really overwhelmed with what was going on. And like I said, I'd come here because I wanted opportunity. So at first, I was just like, I'm going to try it all. Anything that sounded interesting to me, I kind of dipped my toe in. I did Model UN for a while. I did Welcome Week. I was Welcome Week leader. I would go to different events in my hall. Obviously, right now, we're not doing so much in person. So if I put myself in the shoes of first year Imogene in 2020, I probably would have been joining Zooms for all different things to figure out what I liked and what I didn't. And by doing that, as I progressed at NYU, I was able to become much more intentional with what I was choosing to do. And there were a few factors in that. So I got to see people who really modeled the kind of student I wanted to be and follow in their footsteps. So my first year RA, I think was just one of the most influential people in my time at NYU. He really embodied what I wanted to be as a student. So from the get-go, I was like, okay, RA, I want to be that thing. How do I do that? I found out about the application process and I was ready in my sophomore fall when I did apply to do that. And then other things kind of fell into my lap as I started to learn what I liked. I learned that I liked talking to people, talking about my NYU experience as I am right now. And I had friends who had applied to be admissions ambassadors in our first year. And I hadn't applied at that time, but I saw how much they loved it. And I was like, wow, I really think I want that purple track jacket and I want to give those tours. So I applied and gave myself the time. I didn't apply in my first year. I waited until my second year to do that. And then other things just kind of came my way when I realized what my career interests were. So within Model UN, at first I was helping with the conferences, but it wasn't really my thing. And I found out they had this thing called the UN Initiative, which brought in UN ambassadors to speak. And I was like, that's what I want to do, like professional development. I get to talk to these people that actually work at the place I want to work. So I dove into that. So I only found those things by experiencing a whole bunch of things and then narrowing it down. And then I was able to decide really intentionally which communities I wanted to be a part of and stay a part of. And that didn't mean the other communities were bad. They just weren't the ones for me. And I'm really happy I took a chance to figure that out and follow in the footsteps of these mentor-like figures and meet people who really were similar vibe to myself, I guess.
Wow, just like wow to everything. That was like really, yeah, no, that was great. I was in Model UN for like one semester and I also took a chance on that. And yeah, it's all about taking chances. And speaking on many,
Maybe everyone should try Model UN. Maybe that's the gateway
basically,
to everything else.
speaking of that, taking chances is like a very big motif throughout like this discussion. And so one of the chances that you can take at your time at NYU is go international and go to your international sites. And so you had the opportunity to study abroad for a few times. And so could you share with us a little bit about those experiences?
Yeah, so I actually have been really fortunate. I've been able to go to 3 NYU study away campuses. Now, obviously, to preface, this was pre-COVID, and hopefully post-COVID, those opportunities will open up again. But what the great thing was NYU, immediately when I stepped foot in the New York campus, was like, we're a global school. And we were a global school even in New York. We had people from all over the world, myself included. So I was already getting that international experience being here. So you can still have those international experiences in your classes right now over Zoom. You can type in the chat and get to know someone from a different place in the world to you. Like, I think those opportunities still stand. But what I did get was from the get-go, I was able to be a part of something called the Presidential Honors Scholars in CAS, which is if you're in it in your first year, then you are like placed in it, but in your second year you can apply. So if you're not in it right now, but you're in the College of Arts and Science, you can apply in your second year. And in winter break of our first year, they took us all to NYU Florence. So I got to hang out at NYU Florence for a week with 200 other CAS first years. So that was a fun time. And then in my second year, I was able to go in winter break again to NYU Accra. And I had an amazing professor that took our scholars group there, and it was like a brilliant experience. And then I did end up spending a whole semester at NYU Paris, I went to NYU Paris because I'm a French minor and I wanted to speak French. I lived in a homestay, which was an eclectic experience, challenging, fun, eye-opening, confusing, definitely the language barrier. I had only taken 2 semesters of French before I rolled up, so it was kind of hard to understand, but by the time I left, I could understand much better. And I had the best time in Paris. I met my like forever friends at college at NYU Paris, and I did then get to travel around Europe. I was ironically closer to home during my study away semester than I am usually, so I got to visit home, which was nice. And yeah, I did get to have this really global perspective, but I definitely want to emphasize that study away wasn't the only way I got that at NYU. I did international relations. I was involved in these global UN-based clubs. I interned at global organizations. So you can still do it if you're going to stay based in New York for now or based remotely somewhere else. I'm working remotely completely, but I did study away and I did love it. And if that door opens up again, I would highly recommend people taking it up if they're interested.
Yeah, that was great. I feel like a lot of my friends too, when they also sort of talk about their study away programs, they see it as like an extension of all the good things they see at NYU. And so I feel like if you
Yeah,
have the privilege to do so, you should totally go for it. And so,
exactly. It didn't define my NYU experience, but it amplified it. I would have had the best 4 years without Paris, but I'm really glad that it was a piece of those 4 years, would be what I would say.
literally from 100% to 105%, we love to see it.
Yeah.
Here we go. And so I feel like we can build on, because I feel like your time being studying away and going to global programs was like a big part of you, but also we all know there's like a long road to get there. And so now we're going to go a little bit deeper. And so what were some of the challenges you faced at NYU?
It's definitely been a long road. It was a long 4 years and it wasn't without trial and tribulation. I mean, I said before, I rocked up to a city that I had visited New York, but I'd never been downtown. So I had no idea where I was going. And of course, from the get-go, that presents challenges. And I think my first year fall, I was really like wide-eyed and just taking in this city that was all new to me, meeting all these new people, getting comfortable in classes. Right now over Zoom, you're adjusting to that kind of brain mindset as well. So I didn't even stop to think about the challenges, I think. And then it got to my first year spring. And that was when I was suddenly like, oh, wow, I've dipped my toe into all these activities and it's too much. These classes are hard. And suddenly I was doing an internship that I hadn't prepared for. I really fell into it. My RA that I mentioned before interned at this human rights arts focused nonprofit called Pen America. And he was like, hey, they need an intern. Would you be interested? And I was like, okay, once again, I'm not very good at not taking opportunities. So I dove right in. And then it got to like March of my first year spring. And I phoned my mom and I was like, this is too much. I am bad in my econ class. I have this due. I have to go to my internship. I'm tired. I don't know what I want to do. And she was like, just breathe. Remember why you're there. You did all of these things for a reason. You're taking econ for a reason. You need it for the international relations degree you so badly want. There's a bigger picture, but those challenges definitely first sprung up then, and then they've been recurring ever since. I took a lot on my plate during the school year. By the time I was in my senior year, I was working 3 jobs and writing a thesis. And it was just kind of like, okay, we've got to get to the finish line, but we've also got to enjoy this incredible time I'm having, because they were all jobs I loved and jobs that took a lot of me. Being an RA isn't easy. Being an admissions ambassador isn't easy. And interning at the same time at the place that is now my employer was also a high stakes situation because I wanted to continually impress. So it's tiring. So I would say in the moments of challenge, take my mum's advice and think about the bigger picture. And don't be afraid to take a nap, to sleep, to enjoy your favorite food. I'm a big advocate of like eating my favorite meal just to kind of give me some energy again, and take a pause. And obviously in this Zoom environment, we are all tuned into our webcams all day long. So if on a Saturday your friends are saying, oh my gosh, we should go to this Zoom talk with Imogene and Eric, you can say, no, I just want to take a break and I want to rest, and I won't be offended. So I think advocate for yourself in resting, because without the rest and without taking that pause to be so grateful that I was getting to do all of this stuff that's thrown at us at NYU, I think I probably would have burnt out. And I feel so lucky so much is thrown at us, but a reminder that you don't have to do it all. I didn't do it all. Once I intentionally decided what I was going to do, I did those things, and I had tried it out, and then I picked my path and I kind of stuck to it, and that's okay. You don't have to do 10 billion different clubs for all 4 years at NYU, for sure.
Yeah, I from like one involved kid to another involved kid, it can get kind of hard and it gets kind of tired. I feel like a quote that I like to talk about a lot is just working hard and doing good is great, but also feeling good is just as important too. So I feel like it's a good way
Yeah,
to process all of that. And
you
so
can't
going from
pour
that
from an
econ
empty
class,
cup.
basically, and then my retort is like, but you can give them the cup, and then everyone's like, no, Eric. Anyways, so now we're gonna move on to the other part. So you studied international relations and graduated from CAS. So did you always know where you were going to end up? What was the path for you finding what you wanted to focus on?
Yeah, I think I'm a pretty idealistic person. Maybe I was naive to begin with. So I said that one of the reasons I love New York was I was like, I want to work at the UN. Now, at the time, I thought the UN was just that room where you see all these world leaders sit. And I somehow thought I was going to get into that room, but I didn't know how. I am really interested in global affairs, but I was still figuring out to what avenue. So no, to begin with, I didn't know. I just kind of said the UN, but ideally I just wanted to work in something global. I don't like being in kind of one place. I like to have these global perspectives. So I went in with that mindset. International relations seemed like a fitting degree for that. So I went with that. I picked French because it's the international diplomatic language. So I was like, okay, this pairs well. I was basically just trying to make some sensible decisions. And I would say for my first 2 years at NYU, I had the one internship at the nonprofit I mentioned before, but I hadn't figured it out. And what I took away from that internship was that I liked working with people who were interested in the mission of the place I was working at. So I worked at this human rights nonprofit and I worked in their membership department. So basically with the people that were interacting with the work the nonprofit was doing. And I realized I liked that, but I was still like, but I like international stuff. What do I do? And then I took more international relations classes and I was like, okay, so turns out I don't really like game theory. I'm not really into the war things. I'll learn about them, but that wasn't the route I wanted to go. And I was like, I kind of also don't really want to do politics. But I liked this fundraising thing, this membership thing, and I still think I really care about people globally. And I ended up finding this internship junior summer, which I will stress, junior spring, I applied to 50 internships. I didn't hear back from any of them in the law field, in the human rights field, in the women's health field, all these areas that I was like, maybe I'll be interested in this. I didn't hear a thing. The last day of junior spring, 2 hours before I meant to go to dinner with friends, I submitted an application for this organization, Friends of UNFPA. And I was like, it's got UN in the title. It's about women's health. I care about women's health. Let's go for it. And I ended up having an interview and getting in. I hadn't heard about the organization really beforehand. I kind of knew what it was. And I rolled up for the first day of my internship, and we had this incredible event with a photographer that had captured women in Sierra Leone. And he was from Sierra Leone. He was sharing his images with us. And it was an event fundraising for the work we do with women's health and reproductive rights worldwide. And I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. And I didn't know that until I stepped into this space, and it shaped my last year at NYU fundamentally. It shaped my degree fundamentally because I decided to write my thesis for international relations about the very work we do, which is raising funds for reproductive health worldwide. And I wrote my thesis about how US foreign policy has affected the ability to have reproductive rights worldwide. Unfortunately, it's affected it negatively, and I wrote my thesis around that. I stayed interning with them all of my senior year, and I now work with them full time. for the 1 year that, as an international student, if there's any international students watching, I'm using my 1 year of work eligibility post-grad to work there. And I didn't know I wanted to do that. I ended up working at a UN charity after saying I wanted to work at the UN, but my perception of the UN then and the role I have now are worlds apart, but I'm very happy with the role I have now. So it was a little bit of figuring out just what I was interested in, realizing I wasn't interested in game theory and statistics too much. Statistics are useful, I will say, in jobs, but not fun for me. And then realizing also, just again, I'm very much someone that will take the chance if it presents itself to me. And I took the chance on this internship. Well, really, I think they took the chance on me, given that 50 others didn't. And it worked out. It was the dream job for me, and a dream job I didn't know existed. So I'm really loving it right now. I think it's opening up doors again to another moment where I'm like, wow, I love fundraising for reproductive rights, but what else do I want to do in this space? Do I want to keep fundraising? Do I want to learn more about the health side of things? Maybe do a master's in public health? Do I want to advocate in this space? That I still don't know, and where my place is, I still don't know. But I think NYU's really equipped me now to take these experiences I've had and these tools that I used previously to figure out what I wanted to do, to now hopefully figure it out again in a year or two's time when I'm ready to.
Wow, I could just imagine like looking at the UN as like a first before becoming a first year and being like, that's where I want to work. It's I feel like so many students at NYU, like they like either through like their policies class or like international relations class, like they all get like that one trip to the UN. And I remember how I went to the UN. I remember
Mm-hmm.
going to the hall where like there's the big logo in the background, like you can see the seating. And I remember standing there, and the first thing of mine was like, it's not as big as I thought it was gonna be. And I said it
Yeah.
out loud. I said it out loud, and the tour guide was like, "Did you expect it to be bigger?" And I was like, "I'm sorry."
You know, I have an Instagram pic in that very location of me like, I'm gonna work here one day, and tangentially I am, but really not in that room. I work in a very separate building, and I'm working from home right now. But yeah, I didn't know. I just kind of had this vision, and it worked out, but in a way I couldn't have anticipated. So kind of, I think, serendipitous, and it's okay if you don't know. If I hadn't known I wanted to work at the UN, I think I very much still could have ended up in this position, because all the classes I took and the interests I gained led me to it. So it's okay if you don't know exactly what job you want. Even in your senior year, I was coming into my senior year when I figured it out. So
Yeah, nothing's a. I feel like many people expect like there to be like that one moment that changes everything, but it's not so much that as it is like cumulative pieces in your life that sort of build up to something. And so
exactly.
let's keep going down that route. And so let's take it back all the way to freshman year. And so let's talk about your freshman year RA who helped you secure your first internship. So
Mm-hmm.
how would you define mentorship? But more importantly, how did you find mentorship at NYU?
Yeah, so again, the theme of like serendipitous versus intentional, I think, came about in my experiences with mentorship at NYU. So with my first year RA, obviously I just ended up on his floor, coincidentally, the fifth floor of Brittany, if anyone's curious. And he was called Omar, and he was just awesome. I think everyone on our floor would attest that he was just generally a great RA and a great human being. And for me, he showed me like he had done a lot of different things in his college career. He'd interned for a late night show. He was interning at this nonprofit. He was interested in education, but also comedy and like all these different intersectional, interdisciplinary things. And I was like, okay, this kind of feels like me. I like things. I like trying new things, but I don't know what I want to do. And I think he saw that in me, and that's how I ended up being the one that he kind of worked with to get this internship for. And he just really showed me what, I guess, in my head, what an American college student could be, because I'd never met any before. And I was able to keep him, the way he had carried his 4 years at NYU, in mind as I was going to head forth into mine. He helped me build connections on my floor, make my first friends at NYU, and I wanted to be that connector for other people. So that really was how I ended up becoming an RA, and his kind of attitude towards NYU and the NYU experience stayed with me throughout. And he went to NYU Paris, so we were able to touch base when I was going. He had graduated by then, and he gave me all the tips and tricks. He'd stayed in a homestay, so he kind of talked me through that experience. I ran into him on the corner of the street whilst I was picking up a pizza in my junior year, and we got to like catch up. And he is someone that he's moved on from college, and I mean, now I'm moving on from college and we're not as in touch anymore, but he was so formative in my first few years, and is someone I always know that if I shot him a Facebook message and said, hey, I need some guidance, would leave that door open regardless of how far out of college either of us are. So he was a great mentor for me. And then the other place I found mentorship at NYU in general was through the spaces that are open to students to take advantage of. So particularly I found a mentor through the Leadership Initiative, which is a space on campus. It's it's on like Washington or Waverly, one of those streets next to the E-Lab, which is the entrepreneurship lab on campus. And the Leadership Initiative offers support for people who are interested in kind of grad awards like the Rhodes Scholarship, but also interested in building their leadership skills in general. It's 12 Washington Place, I can see now. It's where the Leadership Initiative is. And it's one of many spaces. The Wasserman Center for Career Development is another one. The Center for Multicultural Education Programs, CMAP, is another one. All of these spaces, the LGBTQ plus center, you name it, they all have individuals in those spaces designed to guide students and get them set up for what they want to be and to flourish. And for me, that was a wonderful faculty member called Lorelei, who worked in the Leadership Initiative. And she guided this group that I joined that was interested in grad school fellowships, basically. The first day was like, I don't care what your grades are, I don't care what extracurriculars you do, that's your problem. We're going to talk about how you can be upstanding members of society and connectors and community builders. And I was like, oh, this woman is who I need in my life. She really helped refocus my interest, because obviously we are students, so we think like, oh my God, I need to get a 4.0, blah, blah, blah. She basically said, look, you can get whatever grades you get, but you need to present that you're someone who cares about the spaces you're going into and the people you're working with. I know, Eric, you've said you're an educator, and like in that you have to build so many connections. And Lorelei just, I don't even know how to put it into words, but she exemplified and enacted within me that kind of way of holding myself as I make choices, and to be really intentional. And now, as you can see, I met her my sophomore fall, and I made a lot of my very intentional choices after that point. That was when I followed through with being an RA. I became an admissions ambassador. I started thinking more seriously about doing internships and building my career. So I can't thank either of them enough, Omar or Lorelei. And I've been lucky to have other mentor figures throughout my time at NYU, but yeah, they've been great. And I think you can find them just through other students, your peers. If there's someone you look up to, like I did with Omar, pursue that, and also look out for those spaces where faculty are open for students to kind of come and learn from them.
Yeah, that's I'm just like putting the timeline of Imogen's life in my head, and I'm just like, there's so many like moments that are just like, you meet a person that like actually does change you for like the better. And yeah, you mentioned like some of the departments at NYU, and I personally can attest to like two of them. So first up is CMAP, and it's like, and these two things, one was like more intentional, one was more like off the fly. So I remember at CMAP, they have a mentorship program called the Focus program. And so they basically match first gen kids with mentors who are either grad students or faculty. I was paired up with a grad student who was, he was from Kansas, and his parents were farmers, and he studied statistics. And so me being a Tisch kid from Brooklyn, nothing in common. But it turns out we hit it off really quickly, and then we just started talking, and like we still text to this day. So he's a cool person I'd talk to. And also then we have welcome programs. And so welcome programs, I had a captain who was in charge of me. And so he like became a friend and a mentor. And like, I remember I bought him a seashell once from the beach where I live, and I gave it to him. And then and then I went back to his place a few months later, and he kept it on next to his TV.
Oh,
I'm just like, wow,
so
you care about me. And
yeah,
also,
so
yeah,
the
it was
care is
interesting.
there. All across NYU, there are people that care about you, and you can just walk into these places and be like, hey, I'm interested in what you do, and they'll get to with mentoring you right away.
Yeah. I try not to, I don't really say anything about like, I try not to say things that like are like, you're going to see this at NY, you're going to see that. But the one thing that I can guarantee is that you will find someone that will care about you. And so
Yeah,
that's the one promise I can make. So
agreed.
yeah, a little bit moving on. And so we're gonna stay back in time to first year Imogen. And so if
Mhm.
you could go back and give yourself some advice, what would you have told yourself?
Ooh. What would I have told myself? I would have told myself to be patient, because as things worked out, as my 4-year story is told, it all worked out in the end. I didn't need to sweat the small stuff about it. It came together. And so to be patient in general, be patient with myself, and like I said already, to take the breaks when you need them, because there is nothing better than a cup of tea and a bit of Netflix on a Sunday when you could be writing an essay, but you're actually just going to take a break. And I thrived in those moments, and those moments then allowed me to thrive elsewhere. So I didn't do that enough to begin with. And as I got through NYU, I was like, wow, I need to take care of myself before I can do anything. So that would be my advice. And just to keep as open-minded in all things, in both my kind of career path, my personal journey, but in the people I meet, the things I'm going to learn. I come from a very rural place in the UK. Coming to the city opened my eyes to so much, and I think allowed me to grow into such a much more educated human being, aware of their privilege and their position in this world, and how and when to use that. And I thank NYU for that, and I'm glad. I would tell my first year self to just kind of soak it all up whilst I can, because now I'm out of college. I miss it. I'm listening to a lot of podcasts to kind of substitute the learning whilst I'm working from home, but I miss it. I miss every day. I met someone new every day. I was speaking to people who had different experiences to me, and that was just awesome. And you can do that over Zoom as well. That does not need to happen in person. So keep your ears and eyes open in these Zoom calls, because you're going to learn so much.
Yeah, in a school with 25,000 undergrad students, you're going to meet someone new every day, and that's one of the amazing parts of the school. And
Mm-hmm.
so sticking a bit with NYU, and so we've all seen that 15% acceptance rate. So NYU is a competitive school to get into. And so once you get in, we all know that we all have like a very academic slant because we kind of have to get in. And academics are very important. But also, apart from that, is also your time here. College is the best time of your life because of the personal growth. And so my final closing question to you is, how did you grow as a person and as a human being during your time as an undergrad at NYU?
Yeah. So harking back to what I just said, I think one of the things I really learned was my place and myself in the context of the world around me. I guess I would say I grew up in a place where the world around me all looked like me, basically. And then I came to a city where the world around me was quite literally a microcosm of the rest of the world. And I learned a whole new social justice vocabulary. I learned how to be around people who I had no shared experience with prior to meeting them, and how to leverage that into an opportunity to like get to know someone and get to know something different and share with them who I am, and hopefully hear from them who they are too. And just to be really aware of myself, aware of, like I said, my privilege and what that's got me so far, and how I can leverage that privilege to be an effective member of our global community. And that is true on NYU's campus as much as it is in the wider world. And I think not many people, yes, there's 25,000 undergrads, but in the grand scheme of colleges around the US, not many people get this opportunity to be in like the most global city there is. So dive in, like try food you've never had, have tough conversations, feel uncomfortable, because when you go into that discomfort, you're going to come out learning something about yourself and about the world that I think helps carry me forward every day now. And I definitely came out a more wholly educated person, not just academically. And then other personal growth, I think I learned to be really proud of my passions, and to be curious, and to be confident in who I am, and that I maybe wanted to do something a little different than what I think was expected of me. I don't think anyone thought I was going to come to college in the US when I was growing up in a small town in the middle of nowhere. So to be really proud of that and proud of being who I am. So yeah, NYU gave me all of those things. And when I had my graduation in May back at home in the UK, it was all very full circle and strange. And I definitely shed a tear thinking about it being over, but really it's not over, because now I'm carrying that all into the world, and those are tools I can use wherever I go now. So truly a very formative 4 years for me.
Amazing. Thank you.
I want to say thank you so much to the two of you for this fantastic conversation, and for sharing your experiences, both of you. There were so many wonderful insights in there that I hope many students will benefit from. Before we close, I'm just going to share a couple of resources. So, just want to reinforce the message that it's really never too early to start building skills, experiences, and relationships that will help you thrive at NYU and in your life beyond. Please come and see us at the Wasserman Center for Career Development this fall 2020 semester. All of our services and programs are available in the digital space remotely, and we are here for you. Our coaches can help you figure out where you're headed and get ready to get there. 3 steps to take: complete your handshake profile, make an appointment with a career coach, and register for our various events. And finally, join the Violet Network, where you can connect with NYU alumni and peers. And thank you to our partners. If you want to follow up with us at any point, please do so. And you can join our next session with alumnus Ben Roth.